Compassion is the holding of the intention of understanding before seeking to be understood. That's the spiritual warrior.
Yes.
That's what we're all looking for.
That's it. And that's the courage. You're talking about courage. I think that's the courage. The courage is to say, it sounds counterintuitive because you're like, how is that related to courage?
It sounds totally counterintuitive.
Because but courage is compassion.
Yeah.
Like courage is compassion. Compassion is courage. Like I feel like there's this almost like zeitgeist pushback against compassion because we see compassion as being soft and weak.
Yes.
And no, like compassion is the courage for us to say, I am not ready for forgiveness, but I'm going to break through that readiness to hold and see your humanity first. Every fight, how many fights have we had with our spouses? How many disagreements have we had, spoken or unspoken, with our friends and resentments with our bosses and the people around us? That really just comes from the fact that we're afraid of being known and we're afraid of knowing ourselves. And what I mean by that is that like because we think it's about, oh, well, they did this and therefore blah, 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 blah. But like when we hold the truth of what it is, there's a part of us that have to address that, okay, we played a part in that. We played a part in that. We played a part in creating that dynamic, that conflict or whatever it is, right? We're talking about the Hendrixes. A big part of it is like taking full ownership of every experience that we have in the fullness of it. And that's the courage I'm talking about. To get to compassion, to get to that is not about, I'm just going to release and I'm just going to love everyone equally. It is a courageous act because we have to then start with self-compassion.
And in leadership, this is big too. And you talked about this, compassionate assertiveness. Compassionate assertiveness. I used to call this, I loved it because when I read it, I thought, oh, he's talking about authoritative playfulness, to be in authority, but also to be playful. But it's not the same. It's actually a little bit different. So it's this clear, respectful communication of your needs and boundaries with empathy towards others. It's about being honest and direct without harming other people. You can go into that.
Well, I mean, assertiveness, we always see assertiveness as dominance, right? Assertiveness is, I'm going to speak my truth. And therefore, we see it as very one-sided. When I'm asserting myself, like that, even that term, asserting, is I am speaking. It looks forceful, like piercing. But it really isn't, because the idea behind it is that we're holding each other as equals. And like it comes back to, everything we talked about really all came back down to this. The radical honesty is about assertiveness. When we are speaking our full truth and taking full responsibility for what we say and who we are, and accepting that what is a response we don't have to take on, and that what we say isn't about the other person. So it's a lot of like linguistically speaking, it is taking ownership. I feel this. This is how I'm experiencing this. This is what I'm observing. And that is always held in honesty. It's very different from you're doing this. You always speak like this to me. You always make a mess. You always make these judgments. That's not true. Assertiveness is saying, I experienced this and this had this impact on me. And the compassion comes when we go, I could hold space and understand you in this, and having that love for you as a human being without the sacrifice and going to people pleasing.
The assertiveness without borders is actually the opposite of empathy without borders, right? Like, there needs to be some structure in both empathy and, I guess you could even say authoritativeness. I don't think authoritativeness is bad. It's just maybe a more intense form of assertiveness. So the boundaries and the structure around that, and obviously it's a 300-page book, right? I'm sure there's some definitions of assertiveness in here.
Yeah.
But I wonder, as we wind down here for what I believe to be a phenomenal connection, I knew it was going to be anyways.
Such a blast.
The palpability that I feel from you is this empathetic, this courageousness, and really the compassionate assertiveness. But I think maybe there's some mixture of how to hold two worlds for people that they might be struggling with. So if we could just go into maybe even an example of your marriage or your life, or just something practical, where if somebody desires to be a leader and they want to be assertive, they desire to be assertive, but they also want to blend and mix the same personification of being compassionate at the same time. How might that look? Can you give an example?
Absolutely. When we are in any situation, what is assertiveness? Assertiveness is an action by definition. Compassion by definition is an intention. That is a yin and yang of it, right? So one is action, because you can't assert while doing nothing. Like I can't sit here being assertive.
Yeah.
Right? Assertive is when I'm expressing something that is my true belief. And compassion is the holding of how is that going to land for the other person and having both in play. So it is essentially, it's essentially nonviolent communication language, right? It's taking a look at, and I have a bunch of different communication models in there, like the, AIR, which stands for action. When this happened, intention or impact, right? Like when this happened to me, hey, when you left me on red the other day after I sent you a message, I felt like you didn't care about me. I sent this long message to you and you didn't respond back to me. When you left me on red, I felt like you didn't care about me. And then you make a request, right? The AIR, the R is like, can I ask that, in the future, if I send you a message, can you just let me know that you got it? And if you have any thoughts, please let me know. And that's self-assertive language. You're making a request. You're asserting a need and you're asserting who you are into the conversation rather than being passive and hiding it off, either through, I'm just going to ignore it, pretend if it didn't happen, pretend it didn't bother me, or pretend that this is about something else. And at the same time, you're asserting a request, but at the same time, acknowledging that the other person might have whatever it is that they're going through. So that's the compassionate part piece. We're always aware of one another. And this is why I say compassionate assertiveness is actually three things. It's how we talk to ourselves. Are we speaking in a responsible leadership language to ourselves and also having compassion for ourselves? Is this the way that we speak to the people around us? And is this the way that we lead in our lives? And leadership is everywhere. You lead in your family. You lead in your relationship. Leadership is as simple as, this is how I feel. This is the vision I'm setting for us. I want us to succeed. I want our relationship to succeed. I want our friendship to succeed. I want our friendship to thrive. This is what it is. And I want to take action to lead us towards it. Are you on board?
How much of a letting go or releasing expectation plays into this compassionate assertiveness as well? Because one might go through, on an intellectual level, I could practice the AIR.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or I could practice the nonviolent communication. But there's a little part of myself in the back that's like, well, I expect them to respond to me with nonviolent communication, or I expect a response in the way that I do it. So there's got to be some healthy detachment in the model itself.
Absolutely. And the very basis behind this starts from you're acknowledging that other people's reactions to you are not always about you. We have this thing where we love taking it up and putting it on ourselves, right? It's like the Zen master story of like, stop picking up the coal and holding on to it and getting mad at the hot coal, right? Like we take on meaning of what other people think about us as if it's meaningful to us. I always like to say, it's like other people's opinions of me are none of my business. It's something that they hold on to for themselves based on their value systems. That doesn't mean that it means that I can just go and do whatever I want because I have my own moral and value systems. But it's that I'm not going to let that define me. Now, I would love to say that I'm practicing that all the time and nothing ever affects me and I'm just a Zen master.
Yeah, these are great models.
These are great models. But the truth is like, yeah, it still affects me if somebody's mad at me or something like that. It will affect me. But it just lasts longer. It doesn't last as long as it used to. Instead of it lasting 3 weeks in the past where I would like obsess over it, now I just kind of go, okay, they're having their experience. I see that that's the process they're needing to go through. And what part of this do I want to pick up? Oh, is there a reflection on my actions that I do agree? You know what? I'm going to look at it from their lens. And yeah, that action, not in alignment. I'm going to make a change. I will take ownership and I'll be like, you know what? This happened. I do take ownership of this. My wife and I have the funniest fights. Like if you ever hear us having a fight, it just looks like two therapists talking to each other.
That sounds like a healthy fight, man.
It's a lot of like, okay, so there's something I want to clear. The other day, you left some dishes in the thing and I asked you not to, and that made me feel this way. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to take ownership of that. Here's the context. this is what I was going through, and I want to check in. Are you looking for any reassurance? Like, you matter so much to me, and I care about you, and this is what I'm going to do to change in the future. And like, that's gone. Like, we have really boring fights. But I think that's where the compassion comes from. You're asserting your own needs, but like, you're still holding compassion for the other person.
See, this flies in the face. There's so many paradoxes on this podcast. This flies in the face of a lot of relationships where a man or woman, or anybody how you relate, would say, well, you're just trying to change me and you need to accept the way that I am. I think that's a cop-out. I actually think that's a cop-out. I think that we live in an ocean of Instagram algorithms that will actually put us in the echo chamber of I've experienced this. Like when I go through a fight or when I'm feeling a certain way and I might view some of the content, I notice it feeds me more of the self-affirming content. Have you seen this?
Interesting. I'm not surprised.
Good for you. I'm glad you're not on IG. It's actually something, it's something that I get to look at. It's something that we all get to look at, which is why I'm mentioning it. My caution here is to be very aware and be very mindful of the Instagram content specifically, or TikTok that we're consuming, because it can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. It can be a self-fulfilling echo chamber where nonviolent communication or boring fights, healthy fights, might not be a reality because we're in an echo chamber that just validates our victimness
100%.
or us needing to be saved. And whoa. So you love that episode? You'll love the one on the screen. Click it and enjoy.